Hey friends, this is Darnell coming to you from the beautiful Bedrock Ministry Studio with AM in America, our daily journey through Psalm 119. It is Monday, start of another week. We're on verse 141 where the psalmist writes this: I am small and despised, yet I do not forget your precepts. Wow. The psalmist is being very self-deprecating here, and it raises an interesting question for us. What should be our self-perception? How should we feel about ourselves? This verse is an interesting contrast to another verse that the psalmist writes in chapter 139, verse 14, where he writes this: I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. So, which is it? Is he small, insignificant, despised, or is he fearfully and wonderfully made? Well, the answer, my friends, is really both. The truth is that if we compare ourselves to the greatness of God, who is eternal, not bound by time, not bound by space, bound by nothing, in fact, except his own righteousness. And if we understand that God is got all wisdom, all knowledge, all power. I mean, our God is an awesome God. If we stack ourselves up, even on our best day, in comparison to God, well, yes, we are relatively small, and one might say even insignificant. So we should never forget that. We should never become so puffed up and proud that we think that we're so great. We should always be viewing ourselves with humility before an awesome God. The psalmist writes here, I am despised. Well, listen, as a believer, we know that we're not despised by God, because the Bible tells us clearly that we are the apple of his eye. So what is the psalmist talking about? Well, the truth is that in the eyes of a fallen world, remember this world is under a fallen system that is controlled, majority speaking, by the enemy, by the devil, and his manipulation of people who are in sin, who have not been reconciled to God through the cross, and therefore they are operating out of their sin nature and being manipulated by that enemy, the devil. And that means that as people of faith, we are going to be despised oftentimes by the natural enemies of God. The truth is, we are called to be the light of the world. And the world is a dark place, and people that like to operate in a shroud of darkness aren't necessarily going to like it very much when the light's turned on. The Bible calls us to be the salt of the earth. Well, salt is a preserving agent, but it's also a cleansing agent. Try pouring salt in a wound sometimes. It burns, it stings. That draws a negative reaction from people that aren't necessarily looking to be cleansed. So, being called to be the light and the salt is going to draw the ire, draw the disdain oftentimes of the natural enemies of God. So the psalmist is correct saying, I am small and despised. But he's also correct saying, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Why? Because the next sentence says, marvelous are your works, my Lord. So when we think about how our minds are able to operate like computers, how our bodies operate just by thinking, I can make my hand move or my foot move. I mean, the fact that I can wake up, open my eyes, and see everything around me. Life is a miracle, my friends, and our whole being really is a miracle as well. But that does not mean that we should be proud about that. We need to acknowledge, as the psalmist does, marvelous are your works. So if we keep that right perspective, that careful balance between humility and yet feeling like we can appreciate life and appreciate how God has made us, my friends, we'll be walking in a healthy balance. One thing is for sure, God opposes the proud, but draws near to the humble. We would do right to realize that, my friends, and walk in humility, and yet be feel good about who we are and how God has made us. I hope that blesses you today, my friends. This is Darnell coming to you from the beautiful Bedrock Ministry Studio. Now let's go change the day.